Welcome to our deep dive into the kind of unexpected origins of some of our most cherished Christmas
hmm
traditions. We're going to explore the fascinating and sometimes unsettling history behind the holiday cheer. And
Yeah,
I have a feeling you might never look at a candy cane the same way again.
it really is amazing how many of these traditions have roots in something much darker than what we see on the surface.
Right.
What we consider pure Christmas cheer actually has a history intertwined with fear, darkness, and the supernatural.
Yes, exactly. For instance, Santa Claus, jolly gift giving, right? But did you know that he's inspired by a real historical figure, Saint Nicholas, whose story is a little more Brothers Grimm than Norman Rockwell?
Yeah, St. Nicholas, he's often depicted as this benevolent figure, but some of the stories associated with him are downright unsettling. One tale recounts how he resurrected three murdered children who'd been pickled by a butcher.
Pickled. Wow, that's definitely not in the "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" poem. But it's interesting, right? We go from this miracle working saint to this omniscient judge who keeps track of who's naughty or nice. It makes you think about how we view figures of authority and judgment, even during a holiday that's supposed to be about joy and generosity.
It is interesting how that theme of judgment persists. And we see it reflected in modern traditions as well, like the elf on the shelf.
Yeah.
This seemingly innocent scout sent by Santa is essentially a tool for surveillance, reporting back on children's behavior.
It's funny, I never thought about it that way before, but it does seem to tap into some of our anxieties about being watched, especially in a world where data privacy is a growing concern. What do you think about the psychological impact of this kind of constant observation, especially on children?
Well, it certainly raises some interesting questions about the messages we're sending to young minds. On the one hand, it could be interpreted as a way to encourage good behavior. But on the other hand, it could also foster a sense of anxiety and self-consciousness. It blurs the lines between playful fun and a sort of societal control.
Definitely food for thought. And speaking of figures who embody the duality of the holiday season, we can't forget about Krampus, basically,
Yeah.
Santa's dark counterpart.
Krampus is such a fascinating and complex figure. While Santa rewards good behavior, Krampus, this horned beast from Alpine folklore, is all about punishment for the naughty. He's depicted dragging misbehaving children to the underworld, which is a far cry from the cozy imagery we usually associate with Christmas.
Right. Definitely not something you'd see on a Hallmark Christmas card. But what's really intriguing is that Krampus is actually making a comeback in recent years. There are these events called Krampuslofts, where people dress up in these elaborate, somewhat terrifying Krampus costumes and parade through the streets. It's like a whole different kind of holiday tradition, one that embraces the shadow side of the season.
The resurgence of Krampus is a really interesting phenomenon. You have to wonder what it says about our current cultural moment, that we're finding ourselves drawn to this figure who represents punishment and the darker side of human nature. Could it be that we're seeking a way to acknowledge and confront those aspects of ourselves, even in the midst of a holiday that's supposed to be about joy and light?
That's a really insightful point. It's like we're recognizing that even during the most festive time of year, we can't completely escape the darkness that exists both within ourselves and in the world around us. And maybe embracing those darker elements in a safe and ritualistic way can actually help us appreciate the light even more.
Exactly. It's about acknowledging that duality, that interplay between light and shadow. And that brings to mind another aspect of Christmas that has roots in ancient beliefs about warding off evil. Our fascination with evergreens.
You mean like holly, ivy, and mistletoe? I always thought those were just pretty decorations. But I guess everything has a backstory.
Right, those evergreens actually have their origins in ancient pagan winter solstice celebrations. They were believed to hold protective powers, warding off evil spirits during the darkest time of the year. It's fascinating how these ancient beliefs have persisted, weaving their way into our modern holiday traditions.
So we're basically decking the halls with ancient magic. That's pretty cool. But wait, didn't you say mistletoe has a particularly interesting history?
Yes, mistletoe's backstory is a little more complex. While it was associated with life and fertility in some cultures, it was also used by the Druids, ancient Celtic priests, in rituals that sometimes involved animal sacrifice.
Whoa, hold on. Animal sacrifice. That's a bit of a dark turn. It makes you wonder if that sprig of mistletoe hanging above the doorway is really as innocent as it seems.
It definitely adds another layer to that tradition of kissing under the mistletoe. It's a reminder that even the seemingly most innocent acts can have surprising and sometimes unsettling origins. And it speaks to the enduring power of these ancient rituals and beliefs, how they continue to shape our world in ways we might not even realize.
It's like we're participating in these ancient rituals without even knowing it. Okay, so we've got a potentially resurrected Santa keeping tabs on us, a shadowy Krampus ready to punish us, and mistletoe with a history of sacrifice hanging over our heads. What other holiday surprises are in store for us in this deep dive?
As we delve deeper into these traditions, it becomes clear that Christmas has always been a time for confronting our fears as much as celebrating joy. It's like the darkness of winter itself invites us to explore those hidden corners of our psyche.
I like that the idea of Christmas is a time for confronting our fears. It's like those fears become more pronounced against the backdrop of all the light and celebration. And speaking of confronting our fears, one tradition that really taps into that primal sense of dread is the telling of ghost stories. It might seem odd to associate spooky tales with a holiday that's supposed to be about joy and family, but it's a tradition that goes way back.
Oh, absolutely. Christmas, particularly the time around the winter solstice, has a long and rich association with ghost stories. It was believed that during the longest night of the year, the veil between the worlds thinned, allowing spirits to walk among us.
It's like those long winter nights, when darkness enveloped everything, naturally lent themselves to sharing tales of the supernatural. I can almost picture families huddled around a flickering fire, exchanging spooky stories to chase away the darkness.
Exactly. It was a way to acknowledge the darkness, to confront those primal fears, and perhaps even find a strange kind of comfort in them. And of course, we can't forget one of the most iconic ghost stories of all time, Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. It's a classic example of how the supernatural can be used to explore themes of redemption and the importance of human connection, especially during the holiday season.
That's so true. A Christmas Carol is all about confronting our past mistakes and making amends. But it's interesting how that tradition of sharing ghost stories around Christmas has largely faded away in our modern world.
I think you're right. In our brightly lit, technologically saturated world, we seem to have lost some of that connection to the shadows, to those ancient fears that once played such a prominent role in our storytelling. We're more likely to sit down and watch a feel-good holiday movie than gather around and share spooky tales.
But imagine if those ghost stories made a comeback, not around a crackling fireplace, but through augmented reality. It's like the next evolution of storytelling, right?
Oh, that's a fascinating thought. Instead of simply reading or hearing about ghosts, imagine experiencing them in your own home through augmented reality. Specters appearing with eerie realism, interacting with your environment, blurring the lines between entertainment and a truly visceral encounter with the supernatural.
It would definitely add a whole new dimension to the idea of a haunted Christmas. It's like taking those ancient fears and amplifying them through technology. Which brings us to something we've touched on throughout our conversation: the increasingly prominent role of technology in shaping how we experience Christmas, for better or for worse.
Yes, technology is undeniably transforming the holiday landscape. We already see it in the way we shop for gifts, connect with loved ones, and even experience those classic traditions like caroling. But as technology continues to advance, it makes you wonder what the future of Christmas holds.
We've talked about AI-generated carols and holographic Santas, but what about the bigger picture? Could we be headed towards a future where Christmas becomes a completely simulated experience?
It's a possibility, isn't it? Imagine a future where all the sights, sounds, and even the smells of Christmas are perfectly recreated through virtual reality, or some other advanced technology. Holographic fireplaces crackling merrily, virtual snow falling outside your window, all orchestrated by algorithms.
It's a fascinating thought, but also a little unsettling. It makes you wonder if we're losing something essential in the process, something about the authenticity and the human connection that truly make Christmas special.
It's a delicate balance, isn't it? Technology can certainly enhance our experiences, but there's also a risk of it becoming a substitute for the real thing. We've already seen this to some extent with social media, where people curate these perfect holiday images that often mask the complexities and imperfections of real life.
It's like we're creating these idealized versions of Christmas, these digital snow globes that we can cave into without having to deal with the messiness of reality. But I think that messiness, that imperfection, is part of what makes the holiday so meaningful. It's about those awkward family gatherings, the burnt cookies, the slightly off-key carols that we sing together. It's those imperfections that make the experience authentic and create lasting memories.
That's such a valuable point. It's about embracing the human element of the holiday, even with all its flaws and complexities.
Hmm.
Because ultimately, it's those genuine connections, those shared experiences that truly make Christmas special, not the perfectly curated images or the technologically enhanced simulations.
Exactly. And while it's intriguing to speculate about a future filled with holographic Santas and virtual snow, I think it's important to remember that the true spirit of Christmas lies in something much deeper, something that technology can't replicate.
I completely agree. It's about the spirit of generosity, compassion, and connection that transcends time and technology. It's about recognizing the humanity in each other, embracing our shared vulnerability, and celebrating the simple joys of being together.
And as we head into the final part of our deep dive, I think it's worth reflecting on how all these seemingly disparate traditions, from the spooky to the sublime, ultimately contribute to the complex and fascinating tapestry that is Christmas. Well, we've explored some pretty unexpected territory in this deep dive into the history of Christmas traditions, from resurrected children to demonic punishments, pagan rituals to AI choristers. We've really journeyed through the light and shadow of this holiday season.
Yeah, it's been a fascinating exploration, hasn't it? Peeling back the layers of these traditions to reveal their often surprising and sometimes unsettling origins.
It really makes you think about how much we take for granted about the holidays. We see those familiar symbols, hear those classic songs, and participate in those time-honored rituals without always considering where they came from or what they might represent.
And I think that's part of the beauty of this deep dive, isn't it? It's about encouraging a sense of curiosity and critical thinking, even about something as seemingly simple as a Christmas ornament or a carol.
Yeah, it's like holding up a seemingly ordinary Christmas ornament and suddenly seeing all the cracks and imperfections, the layers of history and meaning embedded within it.
Exactly. And it's not about dismissing the joy and the celebration of the season. It's about acknowledging that Christmas, like life itself, is
Yeah.
full of contradictions and complexities. It's about embracing the duality, the interplay between light and shadow, joy and sorrow, the ancient and the modern.
Right, it's not about choosing one over the other, but rather recognizing that both are essential to the tapestry of the holiday. We need the light to appreciate the darkness, and the darkness to understand the light.
Right. And I think that's one of the key takeaways from our deep dive. We've explored the darker origins of many Christmas traditions, but ultimately, I believe it deepens our appreciation for the holiday as a whole.
I agree with you. It's like those darker elements, once we understand them, actually enrich our experience of the season. They remind us that even in the midst of celebration, there's a depth and complexity to the human experience that deserve to be acknowledged.
And it allows us to approach the holidays with a sense of mindfulness, a deeper awareness of the traditions we're participating in, and the stories they carry within them.
So, as we gather with loved ones, decorate our homes, and sing those familiar carols, let's remember that Christmas is more than just a collection of pretty decorations and catchy tunes.
It's a reflection of who we are, both individually and collectively. It's a time for reflection, for connection, for generosity, and for acknowledging the full spectrum of human emotions that make us who we are.
And who knows what the future holds for Christmas? Will it become a high-tech spectacle of holographic Santas and perfectly simulated snow? Or will it retain that sense of human connection and authenticity that makes it so special?
That's the question we leave you with. But regardless of how technology shapes the holiday, I believe the true spirit of Christmas will endure.
So, as you celebrate this year, remember all those echoes of the past, enjoy the present, and make your own traditions something that feels real and joyful for you.
That's beautiful. Happy holidays, everyone.